we're good to get the thing rolling. I'll drop the link in to the chat like always. So what do we got left? 4 weeks? 3.5? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's right around 4 weeks, maybe.
2, 3. Yeah, it's actually 3.5. We've got 4 because we've got class Monday and Wednesday, and we end on a Wednesday. So the Tuesday Thursdays don't have the Thursday. So for the Tuesday Thursdays, it's 3.5. For us, it's 4. But the Tuesday Thursdays
They don't have the Thursday?
No, it's not the 29th.
I thought it's just Friday.
Wait, what?
I thought it's just Friday that is like the reading day.
Man, well, we should double check. I thought I had double checked it, and that the actual last day of the semester was, and I'm going to check it right now, that it was the 28th.
I'll pull up a schedule. You're probably right.
Yeah, well, who knows? Could be wrong too, and that the actual last day of the semester. Okay, hang on. I'm dropping the link over. I am deceptively entitling this one Sequence Diagrams 2, and we never got to sequence diagrams on Sequence Diagrams 1. So that's the sneaky part. And now I'm pulling up what is this? 2021 academic calendar. I'll drop it over. We got to figure it out anyway.
Looks like it says that Wednesday the 28th is the last day of classes, so looks like that's correct.
Let's see. So spring 2021, yeah. Spring, well, now the interesting thing, see, that's deceptive because it goes spring semester ends, you glance, right? You look at it real quick. You're like, oh, it ends on a Thursday, of course. Friday, reading days, blah, blah, blah. But then when you look at it carefully, boom, we got Wednesday is the last day of class. And then, final exam prep day. I don't know do we ever call that reading day? At BYU, they always called it reading days. It doesn't matter. It just means lag between end of class and the start of finals. And then finals start on Friday. Yep. So we got 4 solids, but I feel like I'm like in this absurd Advent calendar. Like every day it's like, how much longer we got? How much longer? It's been a rough year for me. Probably for some of you as well. Well, freaking COVID's been tough enough, but it's been rough for a lot of people, and I've certainly had my roughness fall and spring. So, okay, all right, my friends, let's get but no, so we don't get that Thursday off like the Tuesday Thursday classes do, but they didn't get the Monday holidays off that we did in the Monday Wednesday class. So it probably comes out fair, I'm guessing. Okay. How y'all doing? How's everything going? You surviving the end of the semester cruncho that's kind of descending upon you? Yeah, no, yeah. Nobody wants to fess up. I'm surviving it.
Sorry, what was that? I was munching on some brownie.
Blake, get out of the hot tub, Blake. No, I was simply asking about are you surviving the cruncho? This is the part where projects start to terrify you a little bit. One of the things about this, the way this class is running right now, is there's not going to be any big project crunch down the stretch. Just going to keep doing, the head first design patterns things, keep talking about UML, you know what I mean? And kind of just a graceful denouement down to the end without a big freaking massive thing due at the end. That's what we're doing. Yeah, Blake.
Yeah, I've really been liking the Head First book. I think that it's just really helpful. It helps me to think in some different ways that I hadn't before.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. That's how I feel about it. You do have to, like we talked about, you do have to like take your time. You can't be like, okay, boom, jump on, do the things, you gotta read along and free yourself to go on that little journey, right? You do have to do that, I think. That seemed fair, Blake? But yeah, it was Blake that said that, right?
Yeah. So what I found is, yeah, usually it is a little bit of a time commitment, but it's totally doable, and I like that.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I'm at as well, right? When I've gone through those, and I haven't been through the whole book myself. Um, confession, right? That's my goal for this summer. It was also my goal for last summer, so that's potentially a problem. But no, when I've gone through it, it's like, look, it's going to take me an hour or two, whatever it's going to take me. Just chillax, pour yourself a beverage, and as you just do it, it's not like cognitively crazy difficult. It's more just like, okay, it really does ease you into it. So, I appreciate you saying that. I think that's, for my money, that's really true. And so I think that's good. Okay, here we go. Sequence diagrams. I really have enjoyed throughout the semester our discussions about design, even though, this is not an interface class, right? But I feel like at the end of the day, there's always some interface on the other side of any software we build anywhere for any reason. And, and therefore talking about visible type interface can become a kind of a vehicle, you know what I mean? To think about the fact that you have to think about the user, even if the user is somebody who's going to call the API into your server. That's still a user. What's your interface in? What did you present to them? Um, there's always some interconnectedness. There's coupling can never be zero. Well, it can be zero for systems that have nothing to do with each other and that do not interact. Then coupling can be zero. Outside of that, no. Okay. By the way, I didn't finish all of the grading on the midterm, but I did finish about a third. And as soon as we're done, I'm going to finish the rest and double back and just catch up on. It's not hard grading on prior to that from the stuff that I've got. But so far, by the way, that whole like who's being full and who's being terse, who's being full in the communication and who's being terse, where we had this conversation. Uh, it's running pretty solid about 50-50 right now. And we'll see how it comes out, right? When N is small here for this class. So we'll see what happens when I get through the rest, but I'll give you the update on that. Those that are giving full answers, and it's not just because I like to see a lot of words and I go, oh, many words, all points. They're good. They are really, really good. The folks doing full answers for the most part are at or near 100%. And those who are in terse mode are not and are struggling. So I'll give you a full report on Wednesday about kind of how that midterm went. And if you're lucky/unlucky third, you may already have yours available. If you want to talk to me at all about it, but a lot of times, if you're in the group that's smoking it, you probably don't have a whole lot of questions. If you're in the group that's losing points, I would just suggest that if the question says explain, blah, 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 or discuss, If it says explains thus and such, and you write one sentence or two, and I say explain, all I'm saying is the question said explain, you didn't explain. You just dropped some words, but you didn't explain. If it says discuss, sometimes I'll just put discuss as my only comment. It just means you didn't discuss it. And if it's really flat out wrong, I'll tell you it's flat out wrong. But anyway, we'll talk more about that as we get rolling. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of hit the sequence diagrams and kind of wrap that up. Yeah, sorry, Blake. You get there, man. We'll get there soon enough. But like I said, right after class, I'm gonna. When do we got class? 3:45. Yeah, I'm just gonna jump on and wrap that up. And I've got a crap ton of other stuff to do, but I did make the commitment, and I do. It's time. It's time. It's well past time to have this crap done for you. So, okay. Should we go sequence diagrams? Ready? Let's talk about it. Once again, okay, listen, this is a theme. I just want to say this theme, it's Sapir Whorf, okay? It's Sapir Whorf over and over and over again. Every one of these UML things, it's a language, it's a system, it's vocabulary. And if you look at what this is, like we're going to talk about sequence diagrams today, it ought to change the way you think about design of your software. Because so far, what you've had to do as undergrads is not really design. You know, it's more just code. And sometimes in your code, design emerges, but not always, right? And sometimes you're just hacking your way to glory. You're just like, you're kind of a code slinger, fastest compiler in the West, and you're just a code slinger, and you're just slinging code till it works. Well, you know, every one of these diagrams is a window into a bigger world in which design happens more deliberately and needs to happen deliberately because you're building professional software and you're not just finishing some stupid assignment because you got to finish it for this class. It's trying to think about real product, kinds of stuff. Okay, so these are the diagrams that help you to visualize varying aspects of object behavior. Okay, and we're going to talk about sequence diagrams. Then later on, we'll talk about object diagrams, state machine diagrams, activity diagrams, and communication diagrams. They all should enlighten your mind a little bit about how to think about systems and how to design your systems. Sequence diagrams are kind of a form of an interaction diagram. And then these become the big questions. What thoughts about design do you have when you see a sequence diagram, right? If you're thinking about the design of your own system, think about, you got some stuff coming up in the curriculum, right? Like the compiler, and you've got that advanced architecture, and there's some other classes where you've got some big things to write. Whether you ever build a diagram like this or not, it ought to cause you to think about certain things. And that's also, the orders of ignorance, right? The diagram, having understood it, creates a framework. The framework enables you to generate questions, right? That's a level 3. You don't have a framework. You move to level 2, you have a framework, questions start to pop out. Okay. What are the questions you can ask now that you know about sequence diagrams? Okay. So here we go. Here's the example. Check it out. I hope that's visually okay coming through. But what we're trying to do with this thing is capture a scenario. Remember, this is behavior. This is the live behavior, and that's different from a static view. Like a class diagram just says, from a kind of a static analysis, how are these declarations done, right? That's class diagram. Sequence diagram starts to get into behavior. This is a system that is actually running. And these are the objects. Remember, this was from a previous example, right? An order line, a product, a customer. These are just different objects, okay? And what this whole thing does, it's, in a sense, it's like a use case in the sense that here's a scenario. Let's look at what happens, right? Well, so there's this message called calculate price, which just comes rolling into the system. And I think, in fact, yeah, actually, let's go to here. Right, I did say that participants in this thing are objects. Each sort of vertical column reflects the behavior of a different object. So down here, an order, that's the behavior of the order object. Here's the order line object, the product object, and the customer object. Okay. And then some things that we kind of note. We've got the order object. So there's somebody sends a message called calculate price to the order object. Okay. Well, for the order to do that, it has to get a quantity for on a particular order line, right? One thing that is not here that I don't like is I would rather have arrows coming back. I'm good with the arrow going out. I just want an arrow coming back as well, because it's possible conceptually to send a message out and for nothing to come back. That is possible. And this to me is important because you send it out and I would like to see the quantity come back, right? I'm going to send a get quantity out and the quantity is going to come back. Same thing with get the product, like I do here. See the return there on a product? I heard the unmiking. Somebody have a comment?
Oh, that was just me noticing that same line that you're talking about right now.
Right. You've got this product coming back, right? You got the a product coming back. So that, in my view, and again, ignore all the little dotted lines, which are they're not part of the UML diagram. They're little instructional overlays, okay? But yeah, so to me, that it goes out, it comes back is very important, and I don't presume it. What else do we learn? An order object can calculate its own price, like right here. You see that, and calculate discounts. So that's sort of it calling itself. Yeah. What else? Getting pricing details. I've got to ask the product about that. So, for the order line, I find out what the quantity is for a certain thing, find out what the product is. I ask the product what its price is. And again, in Chuck's world, an arrow comes back. Then I'm going to calculate a base price for that, and I'm going to calculate discounts for that. I may need to go get discount info from that customer is a high volume discount customer, whatever, their gold medallion or whatever. And then what this doesn't say explicitly is, but you can see that time goes down, right? You can see that time goes down. And what other things do you note about this, about looking at the diagram? That remember, we talked about this on the exam and before about how the problem with a Norman door is that it doesn't teach you about, you have to put a sign because the door itself didn't teach you, right? The thing that it needed to teach you in order to be able to use it effectively. Well, so this diagram, I think, teaches you certain things. What else do you see? That the diagram structure itself, tells you about its function. One of which is that time goes down. I think it's natural, and then as soon as you think of it that way, it all makes sense, right? I think it really all does kind of make sense. But there's definitely a time going down. What else? Anything else jump out at anybody that this kind of just teaches you or informs you? What say you, gentle friends? Yeah.
Well, I wonder if the get quantity and get product thing, if there's a reason there's not a return line on the get quantity.
I don't,
If we,
yeah, I don't think so. And I can be wrong on that, but I think it's just like notationally, you know, you can have it or not.
yeah,
And
I
we
guess
can,
maybe something else that teaches, but just by looking at this, is our order reaches back past all the way to customer to get the discount info. So the customer holds the discount info.
right, yeah, it does, which suggests that in terms of the system itself, that discount information is a per customer thing, right? The actual, and by the way, there's two different ways of answering the question, what does this thing teach you? One is at a meta level, what at a high level, almost meta level, what does it teach you? And at more of a lower level, what does it teach you about the system? And what you just said, Blake, I was Blake, right? Is it does tell you that the customer has that discount information, which kind of makes sense. You know, each customer has his own, his or her own custom discount information, I suppose. It's a way of doing it. What other just thoughts? As you look at this, what does it make you think about the system or about the UML or about anything? What thoughts does it kind of generate? And I wanted to kind of hit that before I jump in and like tease it apart. I want if I said take this graph and look at it, right, and left you with the bottle of formaldehyde and this graphic, and then came back at the end of a day, you know what I mean? I suspect you would know a lot about the system and a lot about UML. Well, sequence diagrams in UML anyway. I don't know. That might be exaggerating. There aren't that many moving parts here, really. You know what I mean? What are there, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? There's only 12 labeled items. So I couldn't. I don't think I would leave you for a whole day. Now, what else? Any other thoughts? What about the order? What about the order of these? The order, not an order, but the order of these four objects. We got four objects called an order line, a product, and a customer, right? And they each kind of we respect the vertical space. You see that, right? That if you see the an order, then below that is a vertical space that it defines, and you kind of, you know what I mean? It owns everything going down. If you need it, you go right to it. If you don't, you blow on past it, right? So you see that. Why that order? Why why is that the order with these four items?
it may be ordered by order of involvedness in the process.
Doesn't it kind of feel that way? That was kind
Yeah,
of my impression as well, Blake, that as I'm looking at this, this is not like there's this definitive, objective, correct answer, right? It was more like, what's the impression you get? I had the same thing where it's like, well, what's the first, or, either the order of involvedness or maybe even like uh, temporal order. Like, you got, somebody asked an order to calculate its own price, right? Said, hey, what's your price, order? And then order goes, oh, I know how to calculate my price. So one thing you do see here is sort of algorithmics, right? You do see what the order's algorithm is for calculating its own price. It has to get a quantity from the order line, get the product from the order line. It's got to get pricing details from the product. It's got to calculate a base call. It's got to calculate discounts. And it's got to get, you know what I mean? That you see the algorithm embodied right here for how to calculate a price. You do see that. Um, but what would have happened if they had decided to just go get a product first, get the pricing details first? Well, they couldn't have because you got to get the product, right? You're basically saying, oh, first order line, um, give me, your quantity, and then I've got to see what the product is. Then I can go out to the product.
So with a sequence diagram like this, how would you signify something like an order can have several different products in it? So how would you signify like loops or where you've got this many relationship there?
Yeah, I think if I'm remembering correctly, let me just do a quick, I'm going to just check for the spoilers. I think we do have the ability to drop loops in, which we'll kind of get to. Or we may find that there's just other ways of representing that aspect of it. But it's a great question, right? Because obviously I've got to do this for every order line, right? And I'm not showing, of course, he's trying to tease apart and introduce, Fowler is trying to introduce ideas without dropping everything, on you. But yeah, let's keep going. But I do think that what Blake said about sort of what did you say, like involvedness? I can't remember what your term was.
I called it just the order of involvedness.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't remember if involvedness was your word, but I like it. Because you do see the more involved stuff bunched more to the left. But it happens to also correspond to the first thing that happens is the first one up, and the next thing that isn't any of those that's new is the next one, and then the last thing that was introduced is the last one. So it's both an involvedness, which I totally agree, and it's also a sort of a time, which ones hit first. Okay, let's keep going. Let me see. Yeah, I mentioned temporal proximity, right? Whichever one comes up first. And as you're doing it, it kind of makes some sense, right? If the first thing your algorithm does is do the one thing, you're like, okay, new object, there's the timeline, let's do it. We see messages, we see return responses. Okay, that we've already hit. The idea of a found message only means that we don't care, that there is an ability to invoke an order with a method called calculate price, right? So an order object has a method called calculate price that somebody invoked, and we don't care why or how. It's irrelevant to our scenario, but they asked us, so we'll do it. We can see that the object can invoke a method on itself, which is natural to the way objects work. Objects can invoke their own methods. What else? Return is always assumed, you know. And then I just added this, Dr. K says, I prefer to be consistent as always use a return because I believe that it mixes the metaphor, again, because not everything comes back. Okay. Let me see. What does this mean? Oh, an alternate design for the system where I ask in order to calculate the price, where every order line has its own price, where I'm basically saying the order is basically going to loop and it's going to say to the order line, calculate your price, back this thing up. What we did before was we said, calculate the price and then the order is asking the order line a couple of nosy questions. It's a little bit higher coupling, isn't it? You see that this is higher coupling between order and order line, that there's higher coupling here than here. Do you see it? Because here, calculate price has to know that order lines have quantities and that they have products. So I say to the order line, tell me about your product. Then I take that product and then I turn around and I call that product to ask for its pricing details, right? Why am I doing all that? Look, you asked me to calculate the price of my order. The price of my order is the sum of the prices of each order line, plus, tax and shipping or whatever. I write tack on at the bottom, right? Does that make sense? What do you like? What do you like? And here you go calculate price on the order, and then what it does is, again, we're assuming the loop. We're not showing a loop, but we're assuming looping. And now I just go, yo, order line, tell me your price. And it's going to come back. And then I'm going to go, okay, next order line, what's your price? And I'm just going to keep looping and summing, and now I know what my price is. And then what order line does is gets the price from the product that it knows about, that value's got to come back, And then there's a general, then the overall order is dealing with things like the customer, because it has to. It's got to calculate the overall discount. And I don't know what get base value does. I don't remember, honestly. What do you think? Pros or cons? And somebody who's been silent so far, which is like almost everybody, what do you think? I argue that has higher coupling if you're just looking at order and order line. So really, just this part right here, I'm going to say, well, actually, it's all of that. I'm going to say that's higher coupling than this. Agree, disagree, for starters. And prefer, not prefer. What do you think? And then, of course, why? Come on. Come on. Don't make me shake my fist at you. So, what do you disagree with, Sam? You disagree with me? How dare you? How dare you question my authority? Hang on, I gotta read this. I think the second has higher coupling because two things are dependent on it. Ooh, okay. Say more, Sam. I don't know if Sam, if you're like text only right now, or if you can jump on verbal to kind of explain that. You're saying that you see higher coupling here. Two things are dependent upon it. You gotta explain more.
Well, I think that these are the issue is I think that these are both describing the same thing just in a different way.
Of
So
course.
I don't think higher coupling.
Well, but here's actually, Blake. Let me interject though, because it's not two ways of describing the same thing. It's different design. You see what I mean? Because in this design, this first one, order has to call the get quantity method from the order line. Then it's got to call the get product from the order line, and then it's the order that gets the pricing details from that product. In contrast to the order goes, hey, order line, tell me your price, and doesn't, right? So order doesn't know about products, price per product, or any of that kind of crap. It's the order line who has to go get that stuff from from the product in itself for that particular line. Does that make sense? So it's not different descriptions, it's literally different designs that you could do it at least these two different ways.
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense now you had to explain it.
Sam's backpedaling. He thought better of questioning my authority. So, no, what do you think, Sam? Because what I'm really trying to get at is and when you say it has, I'm not saying that one of these diagrams has lower coupling and the other diagram has higher coupling. I'm saying that in this scenario here, there is higher coupling between order and order line. Right? In other words, the coupling is between order and order line and then between order and product. Whereas here, there's low coupling between order and order line, and then there's still that same high coupling between order line and product. That same kind of coupling. But which one? And I don't think that one of these is inherently right and the other one's inherently wrong or anything like that. But I am curious what you think. Sam is green. I am curious which one you like, which one you prefer. You can call them 1 and 2 if you want. We'll call, that one we'll call 1, the first one. That one we'll call 2, it's the second one. Just as a matter of personal preference, what do you like? Come on, all the silent ones. If we were in class, if we were live in classroom, you would cough it up because I would stare you down until you had to say words. Okay, what do we got? Scott likes 2. Blake goes crickets. Sam likes 2. Okay, Scott and Sam, you both like 2. Anybody else? Everybody else is like, it's all right, Dr. K. Why don't you just fail me? I don't have any opinions. Come on, you gotta have opinions. What do you think? I got 2 votes for the second one, and I got 2 votes for crickets. Eric agrees with Scott about everything. So, okay, Scott, or who said Scott or Sam? Why do you like 2? Why do you like 2? Sam said something. Oh, and then Eric, who agrees with Scott. Sam said he liked the second one because it seems like there's more delegation. Yeah, it seems I'm a little bit okay. I'm going to pile on and say I think I like the second one better. Because to me, if you give me an order and then I got to look at the order line and then I'm managing, right? The order, if I'm the order, I'm saying to the order line, give me your pieces, right? I'm saying to the order line, give me your pieces. Then I'm going to take those pieces and I'll calculate those things myself. That feels to me to be a little bit less elegant as opposed to just simply saying the price of an order is the sum of the prices of the lines. And then
Well,
just saying,
and
right, give me your price. Yeah.
I was going to say, and it gets away from the idea that you don't really want high level, right? With the sequence diagram, my understanding of it is that you want to minimize how much your objects talk to each other, and you want them to be as modular as possible, is what I've sort of learned from software engineering, and just generally that's what I hear when you're talking about design a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And if you have to pull things in piecemeal, then you need the whole bowl of cereal and not just,
Yeah. Because I'm looking at it.
Sorry, it was kind of a mixed metaphor, but do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You need all the individual pieces instead of just
Yeah.
a bit an abstract idea or object that does the things you want to
Yeah.
do.
Well, and look at it this way. So I think I might be, I do think that this first diagram actually has more inappropriate coupling than that one, right? And here's why. Let me try to reason it out. In this first one, I have to know the details of the order line in order to calculate the price of the order. Should I need to understand the details of the order line in order to calculate the price of my order? I would say no. It would be best if I didn't. That's information hiding, right? So now think of it another way. Let's say we changed the way in which we represented a quantity. So when I say get quantity, right, I changed, maybe there's a quantity object and it's simply an integer. And then there's a product object, which has little bits of information, including the name of the product or maybe the manufacturer, make, model, and year, whatever. There might be information in that get product. maybe even just product serial number. Maybe that's all it is. I don't know. But if we changed but let's just say for the sake of argument that get quantity returned a quantity object and get product returned a product object, okay? And now an order has to now tease apart that product object, you know, or whatever, the quantity, the product. And then you changed the nature of quantity. Who's affected? How many objects in the system are affected? How many classes do I have to go touch potentially? And I don't know if my question's working perfectly, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do think if you phrase it like that, though, the idea, right? Because you still need the quantity, and it's going to affect. Well, actually, it may even affect less because if you change the quantity in the other one, wouldn't it affect the product and the order?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know.
Actually, never mind. It wouldn't because mechanically it works the same.
I think it does
I
work
don't know.
mechanically the same. Where I'm kind of going is the fact that the order has to know about the quantity object. Order has to manipulate a quantity object. And let's just say that an order line consists of a quantity object and that the order line object has a quantity object and a product object, right? And all order really wants in this instance when it's calculating the price is the price for the order. But the order gives it like a pizza crust and toppings. Like all I want's a pizza, and you're giving me pizza crust and toppings. And now I've got to go hand those over and do some stuff. And it feels like the order is making a pizza and getting the ingredients from everybody, like a centralized sort of control. So if we change the pepperoni or we change the pizza crust, order is concerned about it. Whereas over here, all that stuff can change. And at least as far as the order is concerned, it's like, oh, you want to know the price? Okay, hey, every order line, what's your price? That's your design. Design done. Now the order line has to figure out its price, you know, in the cleanest way possible. So, you know, for my money, and I'm sure it's obviously subjective, but for my money, I like the second one better because it just feels like it has more conceptual information hiding, fewer side effects if something changes.
Well,
Your mileage may vary, right?
I'm not 100% sure that you do end up with fewer side effects if something changes because you have this relationship between order line, and product that if one thing changes, then basically just the order gets messed up.
Well, yeah,
for both of them.
But that
But
doesn't speak to the
I think what
interconnectedness. Because
yeah
you know what I'm trying to say, right, Sam?
yeah
That
I do.
coupling
I
is
think what
about the
makes
interconnectedness. Go ahead.
yeah for sure. I think from another perspective too, not just for coupling. I think that the second one is much better because the idea of like a thing having a specific role and not getting mixed up with the other things or doing parts of their jobs or right the
Yeah,
order you
yeah,
get the price and you give the order line what it needs and you get the price from the order line, right? The order line assembles the sort of stuff from the order
yeah.
and tells the product what's needed, and then it gives the price back to the order, right? And it's just
Yeah,
passing it's doing an assembly line thing instead of everybody building the Legos together
yeah, yeah.
and all arguing about what needs to be done, sort of idea.
Yep, yep. Anyway, hopefully that's interesting and thought provoking enough, right? And then you see little bits of syntax like when I do a get price that I have to tell it, you know, the quantity, you know, which that also to me is goofy. Unless the actual price of a product changes with quantity. Now that's totally possible, actually. Totally possible, right? If I'm buying in bulk, the price changes, right? Above a certain quantity, prices differ based on quantity. Yeah. And I am inquiring of a given product. So I'm basically saying, again, this is not a class diagram. This is an object diagram. These are objects that are alive in the system. And I'm basically going, hey, product, um, if I had like 27 of you, what would your price be? And then product goes, oh yeah, 27 of me, that's going to be this price per unit or whatever. So anyway, let's move on. But just trying to show you again that just the idea that from here to here, all the thinking shifts a little bit, right? It really does change your thinking. So and this really and this is really what we've been talking about side by side, a little bigger here. So the same two pictures, okay, same two diagrams. This one to me is more like a central design, like a centralized design. You know, the order just goes, I've got the whole thing, I'm pulling it all together. Look, just give me your pizza crust and your toppings. I'm going to put this whole thing together myself, right? As opposed to more distributed on the right, where I'm kind of like, oh, you want to know the price? Okay, turns to the next guy. Hey, what's your price? And I think emotionally that feels like you're passing the buck. You know what I mean? You kind of feel like, wait, that was my job. What are you doing? But from an information hiding perspective, from a low coupling perspective, it actually makes a great deal of sense. So, okay, a few other things. Let me see. We talked. Well, I think we've kind of already hit this, what are the weaknesses that we see? I think we've really kind of hit some of that. But let me hit a couple of ideas and be thinking about like weaknesses. Um, and this one here, the fact that almost every invocation originates from the order. That it's a little bit funky to me that all of these invocations start from the order line. But again, I think that speaks to maybe that centralized design and maybe a little more coupling. Um, One of them happens only once. What did I even mean? What did I mean? Oh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what that was one thing. The other thing, what this meant, the second bullet, what actually meant, yes, these are my slides. I did build them. But it is the fact that we've got a loop. We've got a loop. We got to do this on every order line, right? Including one of these that only ever needs to happen one time, which is get discount info. The way this thing is set up, I'm going to do this whole thing every time, including redundantly get the discount info for this customer over and over and over and over again, which I wouldn't need to do. I need to loop this thing, you know, for some particular chunk of it. Which again, I feel like this one on the right gives me, a little more of a clean view. Now somewhere, where do we have it? Do I have the loopy thing in here? Sorry, I'm just looking. Yeah, that's the loopy stuff over there. I don't like the loopy. I don't like the syntax for looping in the sequence diagrams. Where are we at? Okay, we're right here. Okay. Using my keyboard. There we go. Okay. So here's another bit of syntax for the sequence diagram. Remember, as you know, that you can define objects by making these classes, right? Classes are like the blueprint for an object. They aren't the object itself. They're just a description of the object. They're a declaration for the object. And then when I say there's some command I make, depending upon my language, and this is an idiomatic pattern for every language, how they're going to do it. The classic, though, in something like a C-like language is to just say new. Like, give me a new one of these, right? And you got some like object pointer gets new, and then here comes the name of the type, right? Give me one of these. And it'll basically allocate the memory, spin me up, put everything into memory. What else are you going to do? Call constructors, do all the setup. Right? That's when I create an object. And then I can also reflect when the object is deleted, right? The object comes alive, does a certain job, finishes, goes away. So we can also build in to the sequence diagram the generation of an object and then the destruction of that object. Okay? This one is the syntax for self-deletion, and this is the syntax for deletion from another object, where somebody issues to the object a close command saying, shut yourself down and clean up the memory and go away, right? So again, don't care. But how many of you maybe feel like you're novices at object-oriented design looked at that for a second and went, oh, wait, objects can close themselves or they can be closed by other objects? Okay, right? That's interesting. If you didn't realize that both of those were available, right? And I don't know if that's actually true in every object-oriented language. There might be languages which are like, objects aren't deleted unless they're explicitly deleted, or objects only can self-delete, whatever. But what about this one? When would that be relevant to explicitly show? Why would you ever want to do that? When we were over here, we didn't say, oh, the order line comes alive now, and then it goes away now. We didn't do all that. But here we are saying, here comes a query command, and then at some point it's going to go away. Here comes, something else. Why? What do you think? And there's no great right or wrong answers on this one. Just curious, when would it be relevant to explicitly show this? What do you think? Rick said, for a server, you need to close the connections, right? Yeah? Yeah.
It could maybe be nice if you're doing something with C or stuff where you have to manage that.
Well, right. Well, in fact, as I was thinking about this, right, as I was saying, I don't know every object-oriented language in the world. I don't know, even off the top of my head, I don't know like which ones that I do know, allow this. But I do know that in C, there kind of needs to be this independent garbage collection. You got to build your own garbage collection in because it's not going to do it for you, right? And you got to track every time you create something, and then the function itself is going to like get rid of items, things that it created, right? Close those off. Free. It literally has to free the space, and then failure to do that is to create memory leaks. Yeah.
It's also relevant from a security perspective when you're dealing with like sensitive information. You want to release it and clean it up as soon as possible, and you want it to be in use as little as possible. So tracking like when it's in memory and when you get rid of it, and maybe when can help you find vulnerabilities or help you make sure that you're following that principle.
Yeah, I like that. And the really dumb answer to the question, like when would it be relevant? Well, it would be the really dumb, and it's almost like you could make this answer up if you didn't know anything at all. It's like, well, sometimes it's like these examples you've been throwing out. Sometimes it's important to what we're trying to portray that we see the object come alive, do its thing, and go away. Like if you were trying to model like Lambda functions in AWS, right, which is Amazon Web Services, right, where basically you just create a little problem. You don't write a program, you don't put a system, you just bundle up these functions, problems, things you need to do, a little chunk of code to do one thing, here's the thing, and there's the thing. You bundle it and you throw it over to, your AWS, instance server, whatever the thing is, and then it runs the code, solves the thing, and kicks it back. It lives only in that window in which you activate it, and you kind of like pay, but you pay really small time, tiny little, pennies on the Lambda functions, right? I mean, that's one where the model itself has the thing comes alive, does what it does, and goes away. And whereas, back here, it's like maybe I still care, but maybe these things are a little more static. For the life of the object, all of its order lines are just alive. You know what I mean? And then when the object shuts down, then the deconstructor is taking care of whatever, and then the garbage collection jumps in and cleans everything up, maybe. But the really dumb answer is like, when would you want to do this? Well, anytime that it was important for you to do this. And that's really dumb thing to say on the one hand, but also like intensely wise and correct. Because sometimes you need to reflect the creation and destruction of an object in the thing you're trying to embody, so that, for example, the person who's building the code for this object understands this is when I come alive, this is when my constructors run, and this is when I shut myself down. Or that I don't shut myself down because I wait and somebody else shuts me down, right? This conveys that. So when would I want to share this? Whenever it's important that that be known for the thing I'm trying to reflect. Okay. Anyway, that's kind of cool. Let me see. That's the same original picture, but it's really meant to say, and I'm not going to belabor this, but it's meant to say, having had this conversation, now looking back at that very original thing, does it cause you to ask a whole bunch of questions? Like, does the product object get created at the moment that an order invokes it? That diagram says no. Well, when does it get created? Well, this diagram doesn't say. That ought to be important, right? Somewhere. So you can imagine one version that only just shows, like, it's like dot, 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 right? They're all like the four go dashed lines, meaning they all exist, dashed lines. Then they do their thing and they go back and forth. And then you might have another diagram like this one, which is the part where an order is instantiated, the order line is created, and it all lives as an object now, right? And that's like how it all came to be. Then it's like you don't care what's in the middle. It's like dot, dot, dot. And then it's like another thing that talks about how it all kind of goes away. You could do that. Or you could build in it comes alive and it goes away into some other diagram. There is no objective answer to any of this about like just exactly when you would do it and when you would not do it. There's not. And you might prefer it personally. You might even get, 90 people out of 100 to prefer it, which might give some weight to that being a better way to do it. But truth is, it could still be wrong. If it was 100% that preferred a certain way, it actually could still be wrong, But you're trying to look for certain principles to guide you, and that becomes, frankly, a little bit personal. Same with this one, right? Now, after everything we've done, are there questions that you now feel able to sort of go after? Okay, let's talk about this one though, because we didn't go into this one at all yet. And I think, let me just see real quick, because I think I've only got just one slide after this one. Yeah, Rick made a comment. Thanks, Rick, for the comment about on a server you need to close connections, resource blocking, needing to free up resources. Yeah. Okay, what this one does And again, I just want to say I'm not even saying that it sucks. Like this, remember, first step on the path to wisdom is to know that something sucks. Um, Sometimes the squeaking door isn't like suck. You know what I mean? The squeaking door doesn't say that it sucks. Squeaking door just says there's something about it that just rubs me the wrong way a little bit, That's all. So what this does is at least builds in this idea. This is this frame over here, um, which basically says, here's a loop, and you just put a note for each line item, and then you bump in and you embody in this box everything that is part of the thing you're going to go for every item. Boom, boom. Now, this is not the same structure, right? There's like distributor, a careful distributor, a regular distributor, a messenger. New system, not the one we were doing. But I don't know. Do you like that? Do you like that? Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. I think I'm being persnickety, or I
I
don't know what I'm
I
being.
still it's only talking to each thing once, but I still really don't like that the order is doing just everything and
Yeah,
just querying everything.
yeah. It's back to that again, right?
Maybe there's not a way to get around it, but it really feels like a bunch of construction workers watching one guy work until he tells them what to do.
Yeah, yeah. Or he's just like, you give me your hammer. Okay, you give me your skill saw. Yeah, it definitely has that feel. But what about the for loop? What about the loop idea? Yeah, is that you liking it? Not liking it? And by the way, I don't know what this alt operator is. What is that? What is that? An alternate? Oh, I think it's like an if then else. It's like an alternate scenario. I think that's what it means, where it's like, if the value is over 10K, then I use a careful distributor, somebody who won't break my package. But if it's not, I use the regular distributor. So that creates a little bit of an if. It's like an if then else, the alternative. That's what alt is. I don't know. What do you like, dislike? And if you like it, what do you like about it? And if you dislike it, what do you dislike about it? I find it visually disturbing,
Yeah, I don't
but
know.
I'm
Maybe
trying to figure
today
out
I'm
why.
just being agreeable. Um, I Yeah, I guess it is a runtime thing, so I think the loop is okay. I kind of hate the alt though. Like I feel like you're kind of almost getting that for free by having the two different, like, the decision. Although maybe not, because it's kind of grouping them together.
Yeah, and I think the problem
Um,
the problem for me is everything's black and white. So like for example, when I see this line down here right below whatever, then I see the line of dispatch until I detect the arrowhead way the crap over on the right. It feels like I've got another little quadrant, like because I've got quadrant, and then it's like I got another quadrant. I'm like, oh, not a quadrant. It's like the metaphor, all the lines create like a funky mixed metaphor for me. I want to back it up for a second just to see. Yeah. Also, the truth is, I like the big fat arrowheads better. I feel like the big fat arrowheads jump out easier and tell me that's not a line in the same sense. You know what I mean? There's a certain pop that those black arrowheads have. When you get over here, and it's the little, what do they call that? I don't. There's a name for it. You know,
chicken feet.
the chicken. Yeah, like the little chicken feet. Is that the official term, or did you just throw that out?
Came straight from my brain right now.
But no, they are like little chicken feet. Yeah, exactly. Chicken feet with a really long. No, but yeah, the chicken feet to me don't differ. They don't create the pop. boom, visual pop, right? Visual pop for an invocation. No visual pop. And all I changed was the arrowhead at the end to the chicken feet. I just think the chicken feet allows the line. And the problem is that this is showing up at the same time that I'm introducing boxes around everything. And also, weirdly, the break where this box goes behind the timeline, comments go over the top of the timeline and the lines go behind the timeline, to me creates a weird visual discontinuity. And down here, I can hardly even, I feel like I'm looking at one of those, like a Mobius strip or an Escher, an MC Escher print, or, you know what I mean? I can't quite, I mean, I have to stop and, right, because that, check it out, check it out. This gap right there is the gap between two boxes. That next gap, which feels like more of the same, is in fact empty space. But it looks exactly the same, right? If you box it out in your mind and only look at, you know, just you're looking right on this line. See what I mean? There's no differentiation. Then you drop in here and then the text goes over. To me, this does some visually bad things that are difficult. Colors would help. Texture would help. You know, height would help. You know, there's a number of things. And by the way, I predict, write it down, because I'll be gone before most of you from this planet. So just, you know, write this down. There, we're going to move increasingly to a world in which all diagrams, all text, all publications of any type have an interactive component. You know, and I'm thinking back to, you know, when I was writing my master's thesis, PhD, everything was just black and white. Everything had to be static black and white. But just like we've gone to a world where everybody can now actually work online and have meetings that are remote, right? It's like everyone's like, whoa, we didn't really have to get all on airplanes and pile into the same conference room, did we? You know, in New York, and spend all that money. We could have just done this. You know, it's like the world shifts. And I think eventually what will happen is all publications will be in some kind of a form or structure that has that interactivity, color, texture, you know, height difference, you know, that you kind of feel a three-dimensionality. Is that a word? Three-dimensionality? Yeah. To the whole thing that makes it all quite clear, because everything we see will always be in some sort of digital format and no longer needing to, you know, pop out my printer over here. Well, it's a color printer at least, but you know what I'm trying to say? I believe that we're going to go there, but it's a slow conversion. It's a slow transition to that, but we're going to go there. Next 20 years, let's say. Okay, last slide. Ready? This is the punchline. This is the kind of question I would ask on the final, which, you know, I probably will. You know, here's a sequence diagram. Boink. What thoughts does this sequence diagram cause you to have? What questions can you ask now that you couldn't ask before? Okay. Yeah. So that's really all that's about. It's about equipping you to ask the right questions. It's basically a way of getting you out of third order ignorance into second order ignorance, so that you still don't have the answers, but at least you can now generate a lot of really great questions. Yeah, right on. And that's actually it for sequence diagrams. The deceptively named, you know, sequence diagrams 2. But I wanted to also just point out a couple of really quick things, because we're just got a couple minutes, and every so often I just have to end on time just to prove that I can. And you're like, you haven't done it yet, Dr. K. Just there's still room. There's still room for you to blow this. Correct. I want to draw your attention to the meme, okay? this was a deliberate hunt on my part. I just wanted to try to find something that would in fact I'm gonna give you a bigger view of it. System's really slow today. No, I was just noodling on this. A 300-year-old library table that enables a researcher to have 7 books open at once. What do you think? Use or not use? I mean, if you had space, ignore the fact that you've got to jam this in your pitiful little bedroom. Ignore that for a second. Imagine that you had space. Oh, and Rick made some comments which I didn't read.
Probably not. It seems like the books would fall off.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it seems like there would need to be some weights on the bottom of each one of those little things to keep them upright. On top of that, you'd also need some kind of stopper to stop it from moving when you were like resting your arms on it or something. And I guess the other thing is if they're all parallel, if they've got the weights on top, then you've always got one shelf like sticking in your face when you're trying to read from one.
Well, right. Well, there's a lot of great comments. There's a lot of questions in all of that, right? Like, for example, which is actually your target? Is it this middle one that sticks out the furthest, which is, I don't know if that seems kind of like desk height. Normal desk height. But no, yeah, the issue of like, if I have 3 of them right here, am I going to have some weird Ferris wheel from hell experience where it's like always wanting to go, and get those to the bottom? Or does it only work if you have 7 books? Or is there enough tension somehow set up so it's like click, 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 And the devil's in the details because when you turn it, what is it? What's the experience? There's so much like that can happen that will impact, what the actual experience would be like. From a desktop of the mind experience, I might really be all over this. When I'm working on different projects and I want to just pivot between them, right? And there's enough space there that I could put like a book or a paper or, a couple of things that I'm working on. I don't know, but it was intriguing. It was intriguing. And then this other one was simply Miyagi, just, admiring and respecting a good burn, which I think is also a reflection on proper design, right? So anyway, and 3:45, we're done. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop to prove I can do it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly, Rick. It's like 7 browser tabs in an old library 300 years ago. I would
really
love to have that thing. What's that?
I don't know. It is very cool. I really feel like you're maybe better served by a long table, though.
But yeah, maybe. It's hard to argue, right?
Not if you're cross-referencing. If back then, when you had to do research, if you're cross-referencing, having one, that was the problem. That's why that table was designed in the first place, right? They're like, I have 12 books open. I have to walk 10 feet across this table just to get that book.
Right.
And then which one was I looking at? And this and that.
Yeah.
And so the book was just rotate. I can sit and be lazy and get fat.
Nah, yeah, except then they had to walk 5 miles back to their house when they were done. That's the thing. So they didn't get as fat.
Stand corrected.
I don't know. I really don't know. It just intrigued me, right? Like, okay, would I use it? Would I use it? If I had the space, would I have it? Oh, hell yes. Well, would I have this and if I had a big office and I had this just sitting there, would I have it as a showpiece? Of course I would. Would I use it if it was a pragmatic option? That's it. That's an interesting question. So, okay, well, I'm gonna rock. I'm gonna get out of here. Well, I'm gonna stay right here. I'm gonna turn this. I got 7 laptops. Turn the thing. New laptop comes up, and I'm gonna finish the grading right now. Who will acquire the pizza of life? who? We will find out. But I'm going to go wrap it up right now. And then I got a bunch of other stuff to do, but I want to do that first so that I can fulfill my broken promise and actually get those done. So, all right. Everybody kick butt on all your other projects. Keep cranking on our stuff. And I will see you on Wednesday.
See you later.
All right. Take care.